It's still turning. My foot ain't even resting on the treadle no more. Something else is working the wheel. Evening, or morning, depending on where your head's laying right now. Don't much matter to me, one way or the other. Fire's down low tonight, just how I favor it this time of year. Wind's got a bite to it out past the porch. And in here, it's just me, this chair, and whatever you carried in with you. Take a breath. Let your shoulders drop some. Ain't no hurry to any of this. My mama put Silas Vance down on my birth certificate a long time back. But round these parts, most everybody just calls me Abe. Some of you, I know, have been settling in by this fire a good long while now. And I feel it. Same as if you'd pulled a chair up close. So go on and get comfortable. Let whatever's left of your day drain on out of you. And if you're new to this fire, go on and hit that little subscribe button so I know to keep a chair warm for you next time I strike a match. Don't cost you a thing. Tonight we're opening a file out of a holler called Sharp's Fork, and it concerns a stone. A whetstone, to be particular, and a young man who learned the hard way that some stones remember a sight more than they ought to. This account comes by way of a woman named Cole Marsh, who called in a favor with a fella I trust on account of what happened to her cousin. His name was Cole Marsh. 31 years old, worked as a locksmith over in the county seat. Good with his hands. Not a superstitious bone in his body by his own account. When his great-uncle Wendell passed, the only kin left with any interest in the old place was Cole. And the old place was a forge. Set back off the main road, up a shale track, in a fold of the mountain the locals call Sharp's Fork, on account of a creek that splits there, sharp as a blade, and don't rejoin for near 2 miles. Wendell had kept that forge running longer than anybody had call to. He never took much work in, not in his last years. Mostly he just kept the fire lit and the tools oiled. Like a man tending a grave he wasn't ready to leave. When Cole came up to clear the place out and get it ready to sell, he figured on finding junk, rusted tongs, cracked anvils. What he found instead was a whetstone. Now, a whetstone ain't nothing special most days. Every forge has got one. A big round wheel of stone, mounted on an iron frame, worked by a foot treadle so a man's got both hands free for the blade. Wendell's was old. Older'n Wendell by the look of the iron. The stone itself had worn down uneven, low on one side like it had spun 1,000 miles more on that one edge than the rest. And it had a color to it Cole couldn't rightly explain to Karen. Not gray like a stone ought to be, more of a deep, rusted brown, worked down into the grain of it, in streaks that ran with the turning of the wheel. Nailed to the frame, right where a man's eye would land when he sat down to work it, was a strip of tin. Scratched into that tin, in a hand Cole didn't recognize, but figured had to belong to his great-great-grandfather, on account of how deep the rust had grown into the nail, was one line: "Don't turn her after dark. Whatever needs an edge can wait for light." Cole read that line 4 or 5 times over, he told Corinne, and he laughed some, because it read to him like the kind of thing an old mountain family just says, generation to generation, without anybody rightly remembering why. Same as not whistling in a house after supper, or not letting a hat lay on a bed. Rules with the reason worn clean off 'em, same as that stone. He didn't think on it again for near 2 weeks. Cole moved into the little cabin behind the forge to save on driving while he sorted the estate out proper. Said the forge itself didn't bother him none in the daylight. Big open room, dirt floor, that smell of old coal and iron that don't ever fully leave a place like that. He'd go through boxes in the mornings, get the fire going some afternoons, just to see if the old bellows still drew, more for the memory of his uncle than any real use. The first time he touched the whetstone, it was broad daylight, middle of a Tuesday. He'd found an old straight razor in a drawer, blade near black with age, and he thought he'd clean it up, put a proper edge back on it, sell it along with the rest. He set his foot to the treadle, and the wheel spun up smooth as anything. Hardly a sound to it beyond the whisper of stone against steel. Took him no time at all. Nice, clean edge. He didn't think nothing of it. It was about a week later the first strange thing happened, and Cole told Corinne, even at the time, he almost didn't count it as strange. He was sitting on the porch of the cabin, well past dark, nursing a beer, when he heard from inside the forge the wheel turning. Slow, steady. That particular creak of the treadle iron, the one only that stone made. He went and looked. Nothing there. No wind to speak of that night. No varmint big enough to work a treadle. The wheel had stopped turning by the time he got the lantern lit. But he swore more than once that it hadn't stopped all at once. It had wound down, slow, like something had been riding the treadle, and it only just then took its foot off. He chalked it up to the settling of an old building. Iron does queer things cold nights, contracting and creaking. He went back inside, went to bed, and didn't think on it too hard. A few nights after that, going out to fetch a tool he'd left in the forge past sundown, he noticed something along the iron frame of the whetstone he hadn't paid mind to before. A row of small marks scratched deep into the metal, down low near the base. Tally marks, dozens of them, layered up in different hands, different depths, like they'd been added a few at a time over a long, long stretch of years. He didn't touch 'em. Didn't count 'em neither, though he told Corinne he wished, later, that he had. Now here's where the account gets its shape. About 2 weeks after that, going through a trunk in the loft over the forge, Cole found a ledger. Not an account book, though it looked it from the outside. Inside it was something closer to a log. Entries, dated, going back near 90 years, in 4 or 5 different hands, each one taken up where the last left off. Cole only read the last handful of entries close, the ones in his great-uncle Wendell's own writing. And what they said, near as Corinne could recall it being told to her, was this: the whetstone didn't just sharpen steel, it finished it. Every blade that come through Sharp's fork over the generations that had cut something, a rope, a hide, whatever the case, and had been set down before the job was rightly done, before whatever it started was rightly finished. That blade, if it ever come back to that wheel after dark, the wheel would finish it. Not the cuttin' itself exactly. The wheel don't do the cuttin'. It finishes what's owed. Wendell's own words, written not 2 years before he died, were these, and Cole read 'em to Corinne over the phone, word for word. She don't care whose hand is on the treadle. She only cares the edge gets what it's due. Keep her fed in the daylight, and she sleeps like any other stone. Further back in that ledger, in a hand so old the ink had gone the color of rust itself, was one shorter line, dated decades before Wendell was ever born. Corinne says Cole read it to her only the once, and never again after. Fed her 3 tonight. Won't be needin' a 4th. Cole didn't know what that meant, and he told Corinne he didn't want to. He put the ledger back in the trunk, and he told himself, plain as anything, that he wasn't going to let an old book of ghost stories run his life. Whatever peace his great-uncle had made with an old stone and an older rule, that was Wendell's business. Cole had locks to fix and an estate to close out, and he wasn't about to start rearranging his evenings around a piece of granite. 3 nights after reading that ledger, Cole was up later than he meant to be, packing boxes for the estate sale, when he come across a pocket knife. Small thing, bone handle, single blade, dull as a butter knife from age and neglect. It had been his own father's. Cole recognized it right off from a photograph. And something about finding it that late, that tired, made him want to fix it up right then. Not tomorrow, not in daylight, right then. He told Corinne he remembered that tin sign plain as anything, setting there in the back of his mind. And he remembered thinking, that's an old superstition, Cole, and you're a grown man. And it was near midnight when he sat down at that wheel, in the dark forge, with just his headlamp for light, and set his foot to the treadle. The wheel spun up the same as always. Same whisper of stone on steel. The first minute or two, he said, nothing seemed any different at all. Then he noticed the sparks weren't falling right. A grindstone throws sparks. Everybody's seen it. They arc off and they die quick, drifting down toward the floor. But Cole said these sparks were hanging, just a half a second longer than sparks ought to hang before they died out. Like the air in that forge had gone thick somehow and was slow to let 'em go. He kept working the blade anyway. He told Corinne, and this is the part she says still troubles her most, that he couldn't rightly explain why he kept going. Once he'd noticed that, some part of him wanted to stop, but his foot stayed on the treadle, easy as breathing, like it wasn't entirely his decision to make no more. And that's when he started to feel it. Not hear it, feel it. A rhythm coming up through the treadle iron, into his boot, up his leg. Steady, regular, like a heartbeat, but not his own. Too slow for his own, and out of time with it besides. And with every turn of that wheel, he said, he felt a warmth start up along the back of his left hand, right where an old scar sat, one he'd had since he was a boy, from falling on a broken bottle. That scar started to itch, then to burn, low and slow, like a coal just catching. He looked down at his hand. Nothing there to see. No mark, no blood. Just that scar, same as it always was. But the itching didn't stop. Cole told Corinne that what happened next he still has trouble putting proper words to. on account of how slow it all come on, and how ordinary it felt while it was happening, which is the part that scares him worst, looking back. He kept treadling. The blade kept meeting the stone. And somewhere in that hour, he judges it was near an hour, though he couldn't rightly say for certain, time being a slippery thing in a dark room with a wheel turning, he stopped feeling like the one doing the sharpening. He said it was like watching his own hands from a little ways off. His foot kept the rhythm. His fingers kept the blade steady against the stone, turning it, easing the angle. Same motions his great uncle must have made 10,000 times before him. The whole while, that warmth in his old scar kept climbing, till it wasn't just a burn no more. It was a pressure, like something pressing down along that old line in his skin, slow and deliberate, tracing it, start to end, over and over. He said the forge had gone quiet around him, quieter than a forge with a stone wheel spinning has any right to be. No crickets outside, no wind in the trees up the shale track, just that low, wet hum of stone on steel, and that heartbeat rhythm coming up through his boot, and that same slow tracing along the back of his hand, over and over, like it was trying to finish something that scar had started a long time before Cole was ever born. Somewhere in there, he told Corinne, the smell changed too. Not smoke, not coal, though both of them were present same as always. Something underneath that, warm and faint and copper. The kind of smell a body only half notices, right up until it's the only thing left to notice. And then, all at once, not sudden, not a jump, just a settling, like a held breath finally let out. It stopped. The wheel wound down on its own, slow, same as that first night on the porch. Cole's foot had come clean off the treadle sometime in that last hour, he realized, and he hadn't even noticed. The wheel kept turning anyway, for a good while after, winding down at its own pace, like something else had been riding it the whole time, and had only just now stepped off. Cole sat there in that quiet forge a long while, he told Corinne, just breathing, not moving. Same as any of us might, waking from a bad dream, waiting to be sure it's really over. When he finally looked down, the knife in his hand had an edge on it, a proper edge, sharper than he had any business putting on it in that state, in that light, with hands gone half numb from staying still so long. And on the back of his left hand, right along that old scar from the broken bottle, There was a thin line of something dark, dried. Not blood exactly, Corinne says. He was certain of that much. But not nothing either. Cole didn't sharpen nothing else at that forge after dark. That much Corinne can tell you for certain sure. He finished out the estate work in daylight hours only, packed up what needed packing, and put the property on the market inside a month. But here's the part of it Corinne still turns over late at night when she can't sleep herself. She asked Cole, before he ever left Sharp's Fork for good, whether he'd gone back and read the rest of that ledger. All them older entries, generations back, before Wendell's hand ever took it up. Cole told her no, said he didn't have the stomach for it by then. But he did tell her one more thing, quiet, near the end of that last phone call. Said that on his final walk-through of the forge, the day before he handed the keys over to the new owner, he checked that tin sign nailed to the Whetstone's frame, same as he had that first day. The line was still there. Don't turn her after dark. Whatever needs an edge can wait for light. Only now, underneath it, scratched into the tin fresh, in a hand Cole swore up and down was his own, though he had no memory of ever putting it there, was a second line. She kept her word. Nobody's laid eyes on that whetstone since the new owners took over, far as Corinne knows. The forge sits closed up most days. But she says, on the night she does think of it, she finds herself wondering what Cole's old scar looks like these days, whether it's finished healing, or whether something, somewhere, is still slow and patient about taking its time. That's the file on the whetstone at Sharp's Fork, far as anybody's told it to me straight. Make of it what you will. If sleep's found you already, that's just fine by me. That's the whole point of settling by this fire in the first place. And if you're still here, still listening, I hope it carries you on down easy into whatever dreams are waiting on you. This is Silas Vance, though most everybody round these parts just calls me Abe, wishing you a quiet night and a quieter morning after it. Rest easy now.